Hi, Stephanie. So
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Sustainability Talking Live. I very cleverly managed to run the wrong video then. But this is live. I really am here. And you'll notice that I've got a shirt on today with lots of flowers and plants on it. And the question I have for you is, am I pretending that I got greenwashing, that I got green credentials, or am I greenwashing? Which, funnily enough, is the theme for today's show. We're looking at the 7 deadly sins of greenwashing, or looking like you care about climate change without really changing anything. So if you want to greenwash and you want to give the impression that you've got green credentials, then this episode is a must. Now, I do think there's a slight problem these days, which is in this era of social media, people don't always get irony. So reluctantly, I'm going to have to point out that I was being ironic here. And as much as this is about how to greenwash, it's also about how to spot greenwashing as well. So I have with me today Roger Cohen. And Roger seems to have
Hello.
Hello, Roger. You've vanished. I can't see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but not see
you.
you.
Not see me. I've greenwashed myself out of the picture. Give me a moment. I'll jump off and jump on again. I think that's probably
all right. Well, whilst you do that, I'll explain to people who you are. So, Roger Cohen has built a career moving between worlds others keep separate: engineering, global financial markets, and now carbon. As founder and CEO of C20, he enables businesses council regulated carbon allowances from compliance markets as a robust, transparent alternative to traditional offsets. He's also co-founder of the Real Carbon Price Index, a world-first open source tool tracking the true cost of pollution. Hello, Roger. Nice to actually have you on the screen and able to see you. Maybe you could just very briefly introduce yourself. Just say just a little bit about yourself before we get cracking.
Sure. So hi, I'm sitting here in Sydney, Australia. It's 10 p.m. or just after 10 p.m. at night, but I'm very pleased and happy to be on the show and talk to you about something that I love pointing out, which is greenwashing.
Okay, so I have a question for you, a piece of advice really. So if I was a greenwasher and I have seen the error of my ways, what should I do? Should I seek atonement? Should I write to Greta Thunberg and throw myself prostrate at her feet begging for forgiveness? Or maybe I should wear a hair shirt or something, or even wear a shirt like this, which is maybe a punishment in itself. What do you think? Or should I just mend my ways?
I would say probably just mend your ways, but I think it really depends what's underneath your shirt, not what's on the surface.
Okay, well, with a bit of luck, there's a heart there somewhere. But anyhow, so I'm going to get straight. There's the 9 deadly sins of greenwashing. I'm going to tell you what they are, and then we're going to drill down at each one by one. They are language and messaging, minimizing cost and disruption, making claims, offsetting. If they're cheap, use them liberally, imagery and branding, reputational risk management, and then the 7th one is a bit of a cheat, really. It's a summary. Say a lot without doing much, focus on perception over impact, avoid responsibility while maximizing PR benefits, and greenwash just enough to look good, but not enough to get fined. So let's drill down, Roger, shall we? So let's look at the first one. language and messaging. And you specifically said one of the things you said within that is make jargon work for you. So can you enlighten me on that?
Oh, I would say look around you, look at advertising, look at what you see in the media, and just count how many times terms like sustainability, like low carbon, low impacts, all of those words are used, and sometimes used very colloquially. Just, we're a sustainable business. We do things with as little impact as possible. Sometimes they make, this is a carbon neutral or a net zero or a environmentally friendly. Look at the way those terms are used, and look at who's using them and how they're using them, and what they're using them for. And it's quite amazing. You'll see, oil companies or tobacco. There's a Japanese tobacco company that images are all sustainable and green and clean, cigarettes and smokers not even mentioned. So I think that's kind of just look around.
So if we embellish our CV, I mean, of course, I would never do such a thing. But if someone was to embellish their CV, are they not kind of greenwashing their own credentials?
I would say
slightly less serious?
If it can't be tested, I'd say you're probably embellishing.
So you're telling me I need to get rid of all those CBEs and PhDs from my CV then?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about and also you said make jargon work for you. So what does that mean?
Well, I think that's all these terms that get thrown around, like carbon neutral, like net zero, like sustainable. No one really knows what they mean. They sound good. They look good. They look impressive. So use them liberally. If you want to make yourself look green, you want to make yourself look sustainable.
Okay, and the risks of carbon neutral and net zero and how to mitigate them is another thing you said. What does that mean?
Well, again, it's interesting because when everything is connected. So I run a business. I create emissions because I use electricity and I use power, and I may burn stuff. I may do things directly. But a lot of what I do, I'm not directly responsible for. The stuff I buy in, my suppliers could be green, they could be not green. So I can use or choose not to use or choose to ignore what's going on to make things look better or worse. And you can give ridiculous examples, like I can create, sustainable T-shirts or things like that, make it, everything in the production is green, and then I have it helicoptered over to you because I want to get it to you quickly. But we'll just ignore that.
Okay, I understand. So be easy on the helicopters then. Okay. So I have a comment from Eric here. Beware of green hushing too. They're both deadly, and it's funny, isn't it? I was going to say it's a weird trend in 2026 that some people seem to be embarrassed to be admitting to do the right thing, so they pretend they're not. They gloss over the fact that they are doing the right thing. Is that something you've come across?
I think, Eric, you're right there in that sometimes people do. I think they take a position which is like it's better to do or say nothing, because if I do something and I don't do it properly, I'm going to get caught out. And I always say the best defense is tell what you're not doing properly first, and then talk about the good stuff, the stuff you're doing right, rather than just stop talking about it.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the second of the deadly sins. Minimizing cost and disruption. We all want to minimize cost and disruption, don't we?
Of course we do. So how do you do it? Make yourself look green, and do it in a way that minimizes cost and disruption. The examples, there are many examples, but I think one of the biggest and one of the things that sticks out is if you look at carbon credits. So carbon credits are someone else doing the work for you. Someone plants trees, or someone does things with renewable energy, or removes carbon from the atmosphere. And if you're an emitter, you buy these carbon credits, and it kind of undoes the stuff you do. Problem is, carbon credits vary in quantity and vary in price. About a year or so ago, I bought 100 tons of carbon credits for $100. That's kind of 5 years worth of my carbon footprint, if it would be doing anything. If you put those numbers into a country or an economy, Australia could go carbon neutral, using jargon, for $1 billion or $2 billion a year, which is nothing compared to what we spend. So you can make yourself look good. You'll get accredited for it. You'll get told you're doing the right thing. And when you drill into it, those carbon credits I bought were probably carbon credits that belong to a forest that's been in existence for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it hasn't made any real difference.
Okay. Strategies for continuing business as usual.
Well, I think this segues into it well. So, do things like that. Cheap. Dress your language up. Focus on the little bits you do that are sustainable. We recycle in our office. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Find reasons. Do your business and find reasons to either hush, don't say anything, or to talk about the little bits that are green.
Okay. So you got the coal fire roaring in the corner of the room whilst you're recycling bottles.
That's the one. I should turn my camera the other way.
Making claims is another deadly sin, I believe.
It can cut both ways. So make claims that are either real, that's your best defense, but make claims that can't really be tested if you want to greenwash. So, I'm doing whatever it is, sustainable. My shirt is green, or my whatever, things that can't be tested look good. We run a low carbon office. Right? What do you mean by low carbon office? And put it into your mission statement. Sustainability is important. We make sure everything we do is good for the business and good for the planet. Make those sort of vacuous claims that are very, very hard to test and hard to substantiate.
All right. So, I've got some examples of making claims here. I'm not allowed to say this one, I don't think, live on air. I'm going to have to bleep it. Who gives a bleep about Scope 3?
Nice. Yep. Am I allowed to say it? Probably not.
Probably not. No.
Okay. I won't say it. But
who cares a something hit about Scope 3? Yes.
That's the one. Yeah. So, emissions, it's interesting. We've got this system where we say Scope 1 is the stuff you burn.
Yeah.
Scope 2 is kind of the stuff someone else burns for you. So all your electricity and your power usage. And Scope 3 is the rest. And
right.
A lot of it's beyond your control, because you can't directly control who delivers things or who services you. You can on some things. You can drive an electric vehicle instead of a petrol burning car, and you can choose suppliers that are doing things sustainably. But it's easier just to put your head in the sand and ignore. It's not my problem. It's back to the helicoptering in the T-shirt, or flying to New York for lunch. We had a vegan meal. It was very, very low carbon and sustainably sourced and produced. And I'm going back to the airport now to fly home.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't often take a helicopter to New York for lunch, but it's not something I do very often. Blame it on the supply chain.
Well, again,
so it's others' fault, is it? It's not us, Gov. It's somebody else.
It's somebody else, and in a lot of systems, it's starting to get better. So we are starting to look at our Scope 3 emissions, and the irony is my Scope 3 emissions are someone else's Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. So if everyone played nicely and did it properly, you wouldn't have to worry about scope 3, but because that's not the case, we do. Australia is a great example. We're, as a country, domestically, we've got lots and lots of rooftop solar. We're quite sustainable when it comes to our own energy. And then we export, I think it's something like 9 or 10% of the world's emissions originate from the fossil fuels we export. So that's our scope 3. It's not our problem. We're a green country.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Australia is completely green. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit like the China argument, isn't it? When people argue, what's the point in doing anything about climate change? Look at China, and then conveniently forget the fact that half the products they consume come from China. So they're being a bit hypocritical when they turn around and blame it on China, when in fact they should be looking at the products that they're consuming themselves. Okay. Obfuscate everything downstream. I struggle with that one. It's one of those words you say in conversation without thinking, but when it's written in front of you, it seems a bit weird. Obfuscate everything downstream and upstream.
Yeah, I think that just continues from what we were saying. It's like, what comes in, I don't know. We pick good suppliers. We make, we check their credentials, and when we get rid of everything, we recycle. We put everything in the right bins, and we don't worry too much about it.
Okay, so it's about making. But also, I think blaming it on the supply chain. It's another way of putting that is you're making it someone else's responsibility, I think.
Yeah, and we could, if the supply chains were better, we would definitely be much better, but we just can't help it.
Okay, and then highlight the little wins. So I suppose that's all about drawing attention to the little things you do right and ignoring all the things that you do wrong. Is that what you're saying there?
That's exactly. And if you look at most corporates, especially the sort of the fossil fuel industry, you look at the way they look at their own offices and their own staff and things like that. A lot of them are very, very green and very sustainable inside their ecosystem, despite the fact that they are digging and selling stuff that gets dealt with elsewhere.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Right, okay, fair enough, fair comment. Okay, and follow the herd.
Yeah, the example I'd use here is airlines. How many of you have flown and you've got the little box you can tick and pay a little bit more money to offset your flight? And I did some analysis on this, and the kind of money you're paying for that, the airlines could give you a few less frequent flyer miles and absorb that cost themselves. If they did it, of course, it becomes their problem on their balance sheet, and they're going to get drilled into. And a few airlines are being taken to court now over those sorts of schemes. But if every airline runs a scheme where you can tick a box and pay a few dollars and you're flying green, you're just doing what the herd does. It's even if you drill into it and you look at the effectiveness of it, it's not great. And over time, the language has kind of evolved from offset your flights to offset some of your flights to.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think following the herd, it's easy to fall into the trap. Well, everybody else is doing it, so it's okay if we do it. And it's interesting how a word can take on a broader meaning if everybody keeps saying it. So we're seeing a big backlash against net zero at the moment. And people are saying, the ridiculousness of net zero. And it's repeated so many times now that it almost has become an automatic thing. Oh, net zero is a really bad idea, without actually questioning it. It's almost getting into the subconscious, I feel. So that following the herd thing is quite dangerous, I believe. Anyhow, offsetting. This is another one of your deadly sins. Offsetting. If they're cheap, use them liberally. Can you expand on that one, Roger?
I can expand on that one. I guess offsets come in all shapes and sizes, as I said before, and in prices from 10 cents a ton of carbon to hundreds or even thousands of dollars. If they're all working and doing the same thing, why is there so much difference in price? And the answer really is, if you drill in and you look at what these offsets are doing, some are doing absolutely nothing, even though they've been verified and accredited and they have all the right ticks on them. So you, as a consumer who's trusting your suppliers and buying these things because they've verified and they've got all the ticks, find the nice cheap ones, use them liberally, overcompensate for your own carbon footprint. You're doing the right thing. You're offsetting. You're doing a bit extra, but really, when you drill into it, what's the impact or the net effect of what you're doing?
Okay, so I suppose in a way, offsetting is quite a nice way to. It's a good way to carry on as business as usual, is it?
It is. If it's cheap, it's a great way to carry on business as usual, because you're kind of outsourcing the problem, the thing that looks bad, rather than fixing the problem.
Okay. And what about accreditation? So accreditations. So is that used to sort of paper over things in some way?
That's your risk management, because if someone else gives these things a tick, then you don't need to do the due diligence. You're trusting that they've done it for you, and you can just go and use the product.
All right, and you've got one other subheading: the benefits of co-benefits. Can you expand on that?
This gets quite sensitive, and sometimes I think I end up sounding politically incorrect, because a lot of offsets. And the example I'll give you is, I go into a village in South America or sub-Saharan Africa, and they burn coal, and I take away their coal burning stoves and I replace it with low emission stoves. That's great. You've cleaned up their environment. You're probably giving the locals employment, and there's a whole lot of good things that are happening. Then what I do is I go, well, I can now, the money that I paid to do that, I will claim the carbon credits for those emissions that have been reduced. And if you look at if you do the counting, their emissions have reduced from 1 to 0. Great. My emissions, which are 1, I use the offset, reduces mine to 0. So we've double counted the carbon benefit. That's not great. So the environmental benefit is theirs, not mine. I've wrongly appropriated it, but I've done a whole lot of other good stuff in the meantime, and I emphasize the good that's been done.
Yeah. I also think double accounting is a huge issue, isn't it, with greenwashing? I think
it's a massive issue. It's getting better. We're getting better now. We're starting to see how and where it's done. But yeah, it's very, very hard to say when you take carbon credits, which have got fantastic co-benefits, and you start saying these are rubbish from an environmental perspective, because if you kill them off, you're killing off the co-benefits, which are good. It's a bit of a dilemma.
Okay. Well, I've heard a rumor that some politicians double count, apparently, when they talk about money they're spending on different services. They often count the same money twice. I find that one hard to believe. I'm sure that's not true.
Surely
not. You've also got down under this broader heading of offsetting, if they're cheap, used and liberally. You've got risk management. I thought risk management is a good thing. I think that's what sustainability is all about, or partly what it's all about. How does that play into greenwashing?
It really plays into your own personal risk management. So I don't want to get into trouble or get found out for doing bad things. Right. So I use all the bulletproofing of these accreditations and other external verification to manage my own personal risk.
Okay. All right. But if that means you're doing the right thing anyway, if you're worried about, if you want to bulletproof yourself by doing the right thing, that's not a bad thing, is it? Or
do the right thing is your best form of risk management. But if you're not, you want to outsource when things go pear-shaped, you want to make sure it's not you that it all lands on.
Okay. All right. We've had a comment here. A response to Eric from Barbara. Jean-Christophe Duval explains the qualities that make the current monetary model ecocidal, and he is suggesting an eco-estoration economy that could run alongside the existing ecocidal one. My post. Okay, I'm not sure if that's relevant to this discussion. I don't know if it is.
I don't know. We haven't read the post, but
and the regulations against greenwashing.
There's some good words there. There's those ecocidal.
There's some very good words there. So, but anyhow, Eric responds with a link here, which I think is probably a good one to read, on stopping greenwashing, how the EU regulates green claims. Probably be a good idea, anyone that's interested, to have a look at that in the comments section. Back to your 7 deadly sins, you've also got imagery and branding. So is imagery and branding a wrong thing? I mean, we've got a sustainability logo on the screen. I've made an effort to wear a shirt. You know, I need to get my hair cut, actually.
There's a construction site near where I live, and they painted all the cement silos and things green and put pictures of trees on them.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. I see what you mean. That is yeah. Okay. That's a very good example. So can you expand on that then? So imagery and branding, how that can...
Well, I think just look at advertising, and look, sometimes it's very subtle. You just get little green logos and leaves and trees that look like brand marks. They don't actually signify or mean anything. But I think if you look at products very generically, and you were to do some kind of survey, I think green, images of nature, all that sort of stuff comes up disproportionately often, and very often not even related to the products that are being sold or being advertised.
Yeah, indeed. All right. And now you've got this is your sixth.
Sorry, I was going to say there are the big ones, like all the oil companies are rebranding themselves as energy companies, and one of the
would they do such a thing? It's like BP in the 1990s. They rebranded itself as Beyond Petroleum, didn't they?
That's right. What is Beyond Petroleum? I think they're still, exactly.
I don't think we ever got the answer to that one. Okay. Reputational risk management is your sixth of the 7 deadly sins. So talk to me about greenwashing in the context of reputational risk management.
Well, again, I want to be, lily white, or lily green, I guess is the actual term that's more appropriate here. So
it's there might be lilies on my shirt, actually. I don't think they are lilies.
Yeah. Of everything we've discussed so far. So do it in a way that's not going to you're not going to get found out. You're not going to have to stick your head above the parapet and get shot. Okay,
so it's all right to be naughty as long as you get found out, is what you're saying there.
As long as you don't get found out. So be careful. Don't be too manage everything, and keep it within the bounds of credibility.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's something we all learned when we were at school, isn't it? About managing being naughty. Yeah, without being caught. Correct. All right. So if we're to summarize all that, then you're saying say a lot without doing much. Focus on perception over impact. Avoid responsibility while maximizing PR benefits. And greenwash just enough to look good, but not enough to get fined. I think I read someone once said that a sign of a company that's greenwashing is if sustainability comes under the heading of their PR budget. Then if it's the job of the PR department, then that's probably greenwashing. Would you like to expand on those points, Roger? So say a lot without doing much. Focus on perception over impact. Avoid responsibility while maximizing PR benefits, and greenwash just enough to look good, but not enough to get fined.
I think that kind of, without greenwashing my own dialogue or speech, I think that kind of says it quite well. And I think to just turn it around, I guess, and turn it to be a bit more serious. I think the answer really is to be transparent and to own what you're doing and what your impact is, and to own what you're doing to lower it or to minimize it, without having to turn to all these guises and all these gimmicks and all these techniques. I think the EU is leading the way now, where they're starting to define terms and to prosecute or to call out for misuse. I think greenwashing is now becoming recognised as a real risk. I think, as was pointed out before, that turns you into a green husher, which I think you shouldn't be doing. I think you just need to say we're at a certain stage. We're now trying to improve and make sure we do improve.
Okay, so Barbara's made an interesting comment here. I think it probably ties in with what you're talking about, following the herd. Hannah Arendt's work after World War II reveals that people's obedience to power enables all sorts of evil behavior. I see our dominant business as usual as fundamentally ecocidal. In my latest article, which I laid together for psychological geopolitics, environmental science, economics, philosophy, and demography into a single cohesive framework, that might help to steer humanity into a wiser direction. So there's an article there for people who want to see it in the comments section. But I do certainly think that obedience to power does enable evil behavior. I mean, we know this. There's a lot of studies that were done after World War II. I did psychology in my first year at university, and we did a whole load of stuff about obedience to authority, about how someone wears a uniform, people are more likely to behave themselves in the company of someone that's wearing a uniform. And something really odd I discovered the other day is, apparently if there's a crowd of people and there's someone in that crowd dressed as Batman, then they behave a lot more carefully and a lot more generously, which is really weird, because I don't think anyone actually believes that really is Batman, but nonetheless it does have an impact. But I do think that following that herd thing is that people can be influenced, and they can be nudged in positive ways, but it is all too easy to nudge them in negative ways as well, I think.
I agree, and I also think wrapping, as was pointed out, wrapping everything holistically. So you're not only your actions, but the collective actions and the psychology and whatever's driving you together, I think makes you look at your impact much more holistically, and you'd be much more inclined to worry about it. Okay. I was going to use an analogy. When we have a picnic or whatever, most of us clean up after ourselves. We pick up our rubbish and we put it into the bin. When it comes to polluting is just rubbish we dump into the sky and we can't see it. But once we start talking about it and telling people, educating people that this is just rubbish and it's just being dumped into a rubbish tip that happens to be the sky, and it's getting full, and once it gets full, bad things happen. The collective does start to take notice.
Okay, fair comment. Something a lesson that some of the water companies might want to take on board. So to summarize your 7 deadly sins, it's, I beg your pardon, 9 deadly sins, 9 deadly sins. Language and messaging, minimizing costs and disruption, making claims, offsetting if they're cheap, using liberally, imagery and branding, reputational risk management. And in summary, say a lot without doing much, focus over perception over impact, avoid responsibility while maximizing PR benefits, and greenwash just enough to look good but not enough to get fined. Well, thank you very much, Roger. That's exactly 35 minutes. The first time in living memory, I think, we've actually done an episode of sustainability talking in the period of time that we're supposed to do it in. We've just hit the jackpot there. Thank you. Before we go, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think thank you, and I'd be interested if there is feedback or if anyone wants to reach out to me to talk about their own perspectives, because I think the more we talk about greenwashing and how not to do it, I think the better we're getting. And yes, that last comment as well, ignoring the ecological cost of the changes to our supply without an attempt to, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that a green transition costs money, and it has a carbon footprint. But I do think it's sometimes used by people as an excuse to do nothing. So, there's a carbon cost of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are not carbon free, but they are less carbon intensive than their equivalent internal combustion engine vehicle. So, we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in a world in which no one, not in the industrial era. I don't know that it's possible at this stage to be 100% carbon free, but what we can be is a lot carbon freer. Would you agree with that? And be honest about that. Yeah, there's a carbon cost to electric vehicles. There's a carbon cost to solar. There's certainly a carbon cost to lithium-ion batteries. But look at the alternative. It's a very old economic concept of opportunity cost. What's the cost of doing something else? I think, and I think that's the point that sometimes gets overlooked.
And also do things with consideration. So flying in itself is very carbon intensive. So if you're going to fly somewhere, do it for a purpose, do it for a length of time, do it because there's not an alternative, and look at it holistically and look at the overall impact.
Well, Roger, I'm just going to have to cancel my helicopter to New York now, aren't I? I'm just going to have to do it. You
can swim, I think, aren't you? Or
pardon?
There must be other ways to get to swimming, I think. Or
what, for lunch? Yeah, I suppose. But yeah, I think. But anyway, great to talk to you. Very interesting. I think greenwashing is a very important topic. There is no attempt to reduce the number of vehicles or the consumption per capita. Okay. Barbara, thank you for your comments. If you wish to expand or respond to some of your ideas, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to them, and you might be interested in appearing on the show yourself in due course. So please let me know if that's of interest to you. Thank you very much, Roger. Next week, we have got a great show, including an Emmy Award winner of documentaries about wildlife in the rainforest in Ecuador. Thank you very much, Roger, and see you all again next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, everyone.